How exciting can it be? You find yourself hanging out with some people who are very important in their own right. And now they've all come together, and they've got the cleverest name I've ever heard, the Trans-Canada Highwaymen. Is that cool, or is that cool? Say hello. How you doing?
Looking down the barrel. Hey, how's it going?
It's going fine. How's it going with y'all?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. I'm really interested in hearing about the Trans-Canada Highwaymen.
All right.
But before that, tell me, Chris, what do you think of Mo?
He's pretty cool. I met him. I think that we have. Did we get a picture taken together when you were working with that band that Chad, Misty's brother Chad was involved with? Were you working there? Anyway, I met him at some industry baloney thing.
Who was Chad and who was Misty?
Chad was in a band. I forget what they were called. They were kind of like, I think you were producing them. They were kind of like a spiky-haired punk band. This is like '97. Bloody Chicklets?
I wasn't producing them.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Okay.
The Clips, maybe.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't meet you when I was doing the Monoxides, right?
Well, perhaps, but I definitely know who you were, and I have friends that knew who he was. I have a friend, Kevin Hilliard, whose band, the Grace Babies, you produced their record,
Right.
And so
I produced every band he's ever been in. Just
right,
about,
that's
yeah.
right. But Kevin, who I love and I went to high school with whom I went to high school, he had stories about Mo and knew Mo, and I only knew Mo from TV, and so I would find myself in situations where I could sort of pal around with Mo, like, I've made records, you've made records, and we know Kevin. And here we are. I wouldn't say that we're constantly calling each other, but now I get to think of it.
You've been in Toronto since the late 90s?
Late 90s for me. I'm from Halifax, and but my first was I play in the band Sloan, still do.
Yeah.
But when we came out, we had a single, like an independent video for our first song, and then that got, even the independent video got picked up and got played on CFNY, the song, and then we redid it with more money and more, like a larger scope. And that was very much kind of like the story of I'm an Adult Now, and I always thought of our song, which was called Underwhelmed, as kind of a baby brother song to I'm an Adult Now.
Oh,
and here we are now, we play both of those songs. Mo sings with me on Underwhelmed, and I get to play drums on I'm an Adult Now. It's pretty fun.
So, Mo, it's your turn.
Well, I've been a huge fan of Sloan and Chris for a long time. I mean, when they first sort of were in the major label world, this would have still been in the Peppermint days probably, their EP. Cam Carpenter, who was working at, you probably know, who was working at MCA at the time. He's like one of my best friends in the music business for sure. And he had called me in and said, "You got to hear this song." And I heard the song. I was like, "Wow, that's unbelievable!" And he even said the same thing, kind of you. He said, "This is like a baby. I'm an adult now." I said, "This is phenomenal." And I was like a huge fan of them ever since. And every once in a while I'd run into like Patrick, one of his bandmates or somebody, and I was a big fan. And then I think the first time I ever really remember hanging out with you was when we used to have that road hockey game.
That's right, yeah.
And so every once in a while, that's when I got to meet him. And I was, I'm a real fan, like an actual fan. And so it was fun to meet Chris and start talking. And so over the years, we've just had reasons to kind of run into each other, often because of mutual friends. And we had a little cover band that never played a show or anything. And
That's true too.
so it's just kind of been like.
Did the idea of Trans-Canada Highwaymen start with you, Chris?
Admittedly, I feel like I kind of had an inkling of this idea years ago, but it was sort of met with a shoulder shrug and never really went anywhere. And then 2 years ago, a year and a half ago?
About a year ago, yeah. A year and a half, about a year ago exactly now.
A guy named Jim Milan, who I didn't really know, you knew, and Craig Northey knew from, he works with Kids in the Hall. He's a theater guy, and it was his idea, like, what if we got you four guys together and we made sort of a theater show that was a gig, but with visual elements that made it more of a theatrical thing that might play different than just getting together and bashing out tunes. That might be, I guess, sellable to theaters and people who like to sit down.
Yeah, like so Jim did like the Alton Brown show and Mythbusters, so he's used to doing these things where people just kind of go out and do stuff, but there's sort of a multimedia aspect to it. And so I guess that's how he saw it. So one day he sort of presented this to me over a cup of coffee, and then he said, we started talking about who should be doing it, with Chris and Craig, and then eventually Stephen. Craig had been working with Stephen, so it seemed like a good fit. So it and then it was just kind of like, then we called Chris up and said, will you meet us? And we sort of sold the idea with him, and then it just kind of blossomed from there.
So, it started on the East Coast, really. How did you get Mo involved? You've told the story, but there had to have been something that really convinced you, Mo, that this was a hot idea.
The Trans-Canada Highwaymen? Well, I think I don't really play anymore. Pursuit of Happiness kind of went on a extended hiatus, and we've only played about, maybe 10 shows in the last 20 years. And so I don't really play, and I actually developed a bit of stage fright, and I didn't really like it. And then I just decided at one point, I was like, I'm just going to say yes instead of no when things sort of come my way. But it was more the opportunity to play with these guys because I really liked them all, and I liked their music a lot. And I thought this would be fun. This is a way for me to go out and play and get back into it, but also be playing with guys that I think are really great. Not that I don't think my band is really great, but it's like, it seemed like this is a great opportunity to do something really fun, like more fun, and that's the way we're looking at it. Like we're trying to make sure everyone has a really good time, like that kind of thing. So,
the thing I've noticed that I see here is that you've taken musicians from different spaces, and in fact different sounds, and you've brought it together. But all of you are actually playing the sounds that originally were yours.
I guess so. I already play in a group. Sloan is sort of set up like the Highwaymen is set up in that we're 4 writers, and in Sloan and whatever and in some ways I think that our palette is so huge. It's like, he's totally post-punk, and he's into Bob Dylan, and he's into the Smiths, and so I think of that as like this giant palette, and we somehow make it work. But my mother would be like, they all sound the same. But I don't think that any of when we play together with the Highwaymen, I don't think that any of it's like, Jesus, I don't know if this song's gonna work. We're all singing, and the instrumentation is the same. We're actually still back and forth about how many or if any should be just plain acoustic, because we play full band. I play drums most of the time in Highwaymen, but try not to be too far behind. I'm more gregarious than this guy anyway. But so I don't feel like I fall behind too much. But I was going to say that like Stephen and Craig Northey and I are still kind of like dragging our acts around, these days. We've probably been to the same place like 18 months ago, but with Mo, he hasn't been in a couple of years. So we've only played one gig. And when we played I'm an adult now, people are freaking out. Like, people losing their minds.
Mm-hmm. I can well imagine.
And whatever, I didn't write it, but I was there and playing it. It was pretty exciting, and I got to be playing on it. It was awesome.
Did you go ahead?
I was just gonna say, I think there's a thread running through all of our music. Like there's sort of this idea of pop and harmony and stuff that's in all 4 of our music. So I think, if someone wanted to lump us into the idea of like power pop, I think we'd all live there fairly comfortably, even though there's other things on that are part of what we do. But I think that core value is in every one of the band's music. So I think in that way it makes sense.
I think the whole thing really does make sense. If it had been 2 years ago and someone said, why don't you come up with a supergroup? I would not have put all of the 4 of you together, but that's just me. The reality is that the end result is fantastic. Did you really suffer stage fright?
Yeah, and I don't know what happened, because I used to love playing. It was my favorite thing to do. Being on the road, and you kind of suffer all the indignities of being on the road because you get a chance to go out and perform, and that's fun. Yes. But something happened. I'm not really sure what it was. I've never really been able to explain it, and I really started to dread. People say, "Do you want to come and play this?" And I would just say no.
I think it's important for people to know that, particularly young musicians who are just starting out and may in fact have that same problem. I think it's a great example that you've come back from it.
Well, playing the show with these guys at Jackson Trig, I just had a great time. And that's what made me feel like this is going to be really great, because I had such a fun time doing the show that I thought I can
The other thing that you've always had to deal with is the fact that all three of us, Stephen and Craig and I, have all come from groups where we didn't have to be the only guy.
Right.
So in Sloan, I'm literally singing a quarter of the material. And with Stephen, certainly when he was in Bare Naked Ladies, he was kind of like, there were kind of the two of them. They got each other, and they all were, front people in a way. And same with Craig, but with Pursuit of Happiness, it was just like, everyone's just like looking at Mo. Yeah. And I would imagine that would just get tiresome or whatever, might turn on you eventually.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because I think that maybe is more what I meant when you asked me about this. It's like, it's playing with these guys. I think maybe that's part of it that makes it easy, is that it's not all on me. Like, even in an interview situation like this, like, I know that Chris, I could just sit here and Chris would give a really great interview.
And I can interrupt him at any time.
Yeah. So I guess I think that maybe is a better answer than maybe I had, was that it's not all on me, and so in some ways it's a little easier for me to deal with that.
I really find that to be an interesting situation. I find it to be an interesting answer. Let me just say that I've looked at the pictures of Trans-Canada Highwaymen that are on your Facebook page, and you guys are having a lot of fun. And I don't see any stage fright, Mo. You look fabulous.
Oh, okay. Well, good. It was fun. I had a really good time doing the show.
What do you think is in the future for the conglomerate, we'll call it, for the Highwaymen?
I like playing, as I say, it's similar to my setup with Sloan, because I'm doing a quarter of the material. But with Sloan, with any family, you have the baggage of 25 years of, he said this to me 25 years ago and I'm still mad. I guess that could eventually happen with these guys, but we don't have any of those things. But we've all come out of it. The other thing that goes on with Sloan is this sort of the spectrum between artistry and entertainment, which is, some of the guys are like, I don't want to play the hits, I just want to play our new record or whatever. And then some people will be like, we just play the hits, it's $55 to get in or whatever. And I feel like I'm on the spectrum, but I feel like with the Highwaymen, we all just want to entertain. There's no, I don't think that we're against artistry, but I think that everybody's like, bring your best material or your most well-known material, and we'll try to make an entertainment experience that people will, freak out about.
Are you saying that bands, artists, talent have arguments when they're playing together? Are you telling us that?
Well, yeah. Again, with Sloan, the other interesting thing, I don't know, I want to take too much time, but so in the Highwaymen, for example, I bring my 4 songs that I wrote in Sloan that I think are probably the most recognizable. But there are some songs that are perhaps Sloan's most recognizable songs that I didn't write, so I didn't bring those. With Pursuit of Happiness, like, Mo gets to choose whatever he wants. But I had a hand in, and I get a quarter of the money of some of the songs that I'm not bringing, but I don't think if Patrick sings it, I don't think it makes sense to sing. What's my point about that?
We're not sure, actually.
I'm not sure. Anyway, so there's that. Sorry, I was heading somewhere.
I know you were.
He keeps interrupting me.
This tour you're about to go out on?
Yes.
It's right now. It's like a 10, 12 nights.
I think it's 8.
8 shows over about 10 or 12 nights.
And are you going to be doing anything in the Niagara Peninsula at the wine places this year?
Not that I've heard.
Yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah, because this whole thing really got first started at Jackson Triggs, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, I think, had these shows booked even before that, and we thought that we wanted to, but we hadn't rehearsed at all. It was like, well, let's manufacture a gig to get us to get together and play and talk about what we're going to do, because that show wasn't. We didn't really have it was more of a gig. It wasn't really a theatrical. It wasn't really there were no visuals involved, and there will be in these upcoming shows.
Thank you very much. I'm really appreciative of you guys coming in.
Oh, thanks for having us, David.
It's so good to see you both
You're a
again.
legend.
And we're probably I'm going to come in here and just comment. I'm going to give you all a hug.
You coming down the...
Simply because I want to spoil your reputation.
It's fine by me.
Thanks, everybody. Was that fun or what? Trans-Canada Highwaymen.
Hi there, I'm Stephen Page. These are Canada's beloved songwriters, Craig Northey, Chris Murphy, Mo Berg, the four of us, the Trans-Canada Highwaymen.
This is the way we shall live. How is the day downstairs? How it's September this year? I turned on TV and stopped on the floor. Silver and flood, sleeping reality. All I want is what she thinks of me. I think I love her. Makes me miss the boy. I miss the boy. I miss the boy. It was the soul that got me the kid. It was the tear that got me the girl. I'm a sheep in this world's clothing. I'm a picture that I'm holding. Somebody who is cool. I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go now. I got a promise of an hour. Let my meter. I'm gonna go now. Oh, I'm gonna go now. Yeah, I'm gonna go now. Thank you, everyone. We're the Trans-Canada Highwaymen, Stephen Page, Mo Berg, Chris Murphy. I'm Craig. Thank you very much.